Guys, what do you reckon the Guinness World Record most GMs in a Zoom chat? Most unique people GMing in a Zoom chat. Maybe we should try to break it. I don't know if it's the event for it, but I reckon we could actually make it happen. Oh, we have got, guys, 260 young Aussies and Kiwis on a Zoom call right now. Talk about some JPEGs, some random digital coins. That's wild. That's pretty cool. For those who don't know us, my name's Dan. I'm one of the co-founders of Earlywork, a community for young people creating the careers of tomorrow in tech startups and social impact. With me, we have someone, Marina. Quick intro.
Hi, I'm Marina. Yes, early working and also going down the rabbit hole, as they say. So this is all very exciting.
Amazing. And then to my right, we have Jono. Mini intro.
What's up, team? Jono, one of the co-founders of Earlywork, trying to become a resident DGen. So we'll keep you posted in the journey. I can't see anyone to my right or left, but I'll hand it over to Abby, mate. Take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Abby, analyst at Folklore Ventures and founder at DGen Alpha Only. Sagans?
Because where you at?
Unmute, man.
Yeah, I was on mute, don't worry. Yeah, my name is Sukans. I'm a contributor on the APAC team over at IndexCoop. Outside of Index, I run an ATIC startup in Web2.
No, she really liked her. She said I had
oh, well, lucky guy, man. Yeah, and I'll be introing this talk and I'll introduce myself again later. Yeah, thank you for coming, everyone.
Yeah, I've just not stopped letting people in the waiting room. I've done nothing for the past 5 minutes. This is amazing. But yeah, some housekeeping, please mute when everyone's presenting. It just saves us from muting you. Camera's on, we love to see faces. It's a bit more exciting if we look at faces.
So can we do some exclusive airdrop for people who turn their cameras on?
Yeah, we'll wait to add a 2x multiplier if you have your cam on. And that's it. Can you code that up for us?
Major.
Elon Dow said, send contract first. Fair.
Yeah, this might be the new all-in podcast. Maybe so. The all-in of Web3.
Yeah. It could be.
Could be. All the way hand is Chamath on all-in? I don't know if that's is that a compliment or is that an insult? Wild. Righty, folks, it is 6:06 p.m. in GMT plus 11. Though I know we've got folks all across the world, Singapore, Israel, global stuff. You love to see it. If you're on this call, you're probably interested in some degenerate shit, but the good kind. And this event is going to be just about that. Really the goal, like we've seen in Australia over the past 12 months, an amazing number of young people starting to explore the Web3 space, crypto, blockchain. But I think pretty consistently, you see a lot of very entry-level questions, and there's not a lot of great resources for early career people trying to actually do something, like whether it's building a DAO themselves, starting an NFT collection, or just getting more involved in the space. And so we were lucky enough to connect with Sukans and the awesome Index team to essentially run events on what the fuck is Web3. Particular focus for this event will be on, I believe, DAOs and decentralized finance, or DeFi. But we'll have, I believe, some time for questions towards the end. So hopefully this is the first taste of many to come in helping educate more cool young people on the Web3 world. And hopefully, I reckon someone on the we're going to one day do a Web3 unicorn, just calling it now. So if you're there, hello, message me, I'll invest. Cool. Without further ado, over to Sukans.
Cool. I just shared my screen. Can everyone see that? Okay, and I assume you can't see the cameras as well, which is good. Cool. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, my name is Sukans, and I'm a contributor on the APAC team or at IndexCoop. Oh, my Siri just activated. Let's not do that. Okay.
I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But you can tell
all right.
In Siri settings,
let's bit of Apple technical difficulties there. All right, outside of Index, I run an edtech startup in the Web2 space. I previously interned at Big Tech, and right now I'm working on a stealth project in the NFT space, which is fun. Cool. Maybe we can hit a mass mute on there. Cool.
Mass mute.
Sukhan, you're on mute.
Yeah, me too. All right. In my opinion, Index is famous for two big reasons. One is that we run the world's best crypto index funds. Across our different funds, we manage something like 350 million USD in assets. And that's broken down into three main funds. So DPI, the DeFi Pulse Index, MBI, the Metaverse Index, and BED, the Bankless Bed Index, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and DPI distributed equally. The Metaverse Index is my personal favorite just because it made me a lot of money and because I like video games. So two good reasons there. The second reason that we're famous is because we're one of the most well-structured and organized DAOs out there. We're often the prime example for other DAOs, and they'll usually base how they operate based on the principles and strategies that Index pioneered first. So yeah, always a good idea to check out Index if you want to learn what a DAO is. And we'll actually tell you in this talk later on as well. In the meantime, you can kind of think of it like a giant university club, but we build real products, we manage millions in assets, and people get paid. Yeah, so I'm here today with a few other people from Index. We've got Renee, who's a builder on the Index APAC team, Mitzi, a community manager over at Index, Michael, or M-Rings, who leads BD at Index, and also Richard, or Flatus White, who is part of the engineering team at Index. So I use their Discord names. You'll see that a lot of people in crypto use pseudonyms. I got a DM earlier asking why my name was Deagler. That's a name I made up when I was 12 and was playing Call of Duty 4, and now I use it in the crypto community. So that's my story. So later we'll also be joined by Abi from Earlywork, who's going to be moderating the panel part of this talk. So I'll let him do some deeper intros on everyone. Cool. So I'll talk a bit more about Index later, but first, I just want to invite Marina up again to tell you a bit more about Earlywork, their mission, and what they do. Yeah, over to you, Marina.
Cool. So hi, everyone. I'm Marina. So yeah, I'm one of the founders of Earlywork, along with Dan and Jono. You might have seen Dan sort of entertaining the crowds earlier on today. So yeah, like what we do is essentially create a home for young people and for young people trying to build the careers of tomorrow. And we're convinced that's going to be in the land of like startups, tech, social impact. We have a really great community, which is what sort of helped power this event. And we're building a lot of products alongside to actually help the people in this community. So yeah, we're very much interested in Web3 and what that means for careers and what DAOs mean for the way we work. So yeah, very excited for this event. Back to you, Sukhan.
Cool. Yeah, on that note, I want to give a huge shout out to Marina, Dan, and Jono from Earlywork. There's a lot of work that goes into organizing something like this, and they have all been super awesome. So thank you so much. Cool. Let's get into it. Oh, there we go. I'm going to start with talking about Web3 and why it's important, basically showing you it. Then you've probably heard the word DeFi thrown around a bit on the internet. I'm going to explain what that is, give you a quick TLDR, and then we'll pass it over to Renee to cover DAOs. She's going to tell you a bit about her story joining Index, what she believes the future of work will be, and how you can get involved in a DAO yourself if you'd like to. Then, infamous Kahoot quiz, and wrap up with a Q&A panel where you get to ask all your hardcore skeptic questions, which I'm looking forward to. Cool. Before we do get into the talk, I just want to say that I hope everyone understands crypto isn't simple. I was technical throughout high school, a coder, And even when I got into crypto, it was overwhelming. There's a lot of cryptographic and financial concepts that you just can't grasp in a 30-minute talk. So if you can't wrap your head around it, don't worry. It's a confusing space. It's not that, you know, people are trying to make it confusing. It just is a lot to take in. Cool, let's get into it. Web3. So Web3 always kind of existed within crypto. What I really see it as is a rebranding and expansion of the existing crypto ethos. So crypto before in 2017 and prior was really about transforming finance and money. We had all these different narratives with Bitcoin. But now it's changed. It's become about the new ways we can create change in the world through internet native organizations, usually orchestrated thanks to crypto economics or tokens. So that's a kind of good definition there on the screen from Packy McCormick, which, yeah, I guess this is the title of the talk. So like, you know, you should stay past this slide. There's still more to come. This isn't the full answer. If you want to truly understand how Web3 works, we'll need to go back in time a bit, over to Web 1. So this was the early days of the internet. Information was usually flowing one way, from servers over to users. It was focused on building open protocols with transparent behavior. We had a bunch of different layers and protocols. So the IP layer for network communication, TCP, transport, then HTTP, SMTP, IMAP on the application layer. I think you get the idea. Many of these protocols were completely decentralized. People from different countries had built them, but they were now interacting together and they were layered on top of each other. So each protocol was building on the other without anyone asking for permission, without getting approval, without any friction. So the whole process was open and inclusive. Changes and key decisions for these protocols would be governed by proposals. Anyone could make these proposals and anyone could extend existing proposals as well. So you want to keep that mind and keep that behavior in mind for later. It's going to be important. So the interesting thing was that proposals like that would get proposed. They would get posted on online forums and discussed in online chat rooms on IRC. So if you don't know what IRC was, it was basically what Slack is based on. So just a ordinary chat room with a bunch of slash commands. Okay, so after Web 1, we came to Web 2. The world realized that open source is kind of hard to monetize. All right, so a bunch of people were like, screw that, we want to make money. And they went and built closed and proprietary systems on top of the open protocols in Web 1. That resulted in insane power and value creation for the world. No one can deny that. We're on a bunch of Web 2 products right now. Basically, software ate the world. But what we saw is that the protocol ended up converging value to a very small set of companies. They ended up with all the control. For example, Apple being able to monopolize the App Store and take 30% of all revenue, or Facebook consistently prioritizing profits over privacy and being able to get away with it. They're more powerful than most countries. And I think another kind of good example is I saw somewhere that Apple is worth more than the top 100 privately owned companies in the world. That's like 50 Canvas together. There's a few Canva employees in the chat. So have fun reconciling with that. They're huge. All right, after Web 2, we came to Web 3. It's pretty interesting because this is Web 2 with the blockchain. The blockchain lets us build verifiable and transparent behaviors that can't be corrupted. It also lets us use crypto economics to create schemes where early contributors are rewarded and it gives them collective ownership. Now that's a seriously interesting mechanic because it lets us combine the advancements with Web 2, in Web 2 with the open and transparent principles of Web 1. Those open and transparent principles that previously made it very hard to monetize and incentivize people when you're building open protocols. So we've seen a reoccurrence of those same dynamics pop up. Instead of open and transparent discussions happening in IRC, it's now happening in Discord under fake names like Deagler. Proposals are back on forums and anyone can vote on them. In fact, you're going to be able to vote on IndexCoop proposals after we airdrop everyone some index tokens today. The forums actually kind of look the same even 30 years later. So if you're a designer, please get into crypto. We need you, please. There's a lot of engineers. We need more designers, and we need engineers actually, but you know. The only reason that this open mechanic of building organizations vanished is because we couldn't distribute ownership and we couldn't monetize them effectively. So with crypto economics, though, they're monetizable and profitable, and we can distribute the value and ownership in a decentralized way, where early contributors are incentivized for the first time in like the history of software. That's a pretty weird way to think about things. In Web3, you have more to gain by using a project early in comparison to a late project. So in Web2, projects give you the most value when they have network effects already. TikTok is the best when they already have their crazy ML algorithm that keeps you addicted. And Facebook is the best when your friends are already on it. YouTube is the best when you have the most content. But in Web3, I mean, a couple months ago, I bought an ENS domain for myself. I was pretty pissed off. It was like $100 or $200. Like, I was like, what did I do? I bought this dumbass domain that I don't even use. A month later, ENS decided to decentralize their protocol and they distributed ownership via their token airdrop. I ended up getting airdrops something like 10,000 US dollars. So I was like, yeah, I guess it was kind of worth, you know, playing around with crypto and taking part in those early projects. Yeah. So a lot of people do think that this community-driven and open ecosystem is going to continue expanding past DeFi. And it's already kind of started to do that in a few other verticals. They're all kind of still in the crypto ecosystem. We've seen a lot pop up in the art ecosystem over here and social DAOs. Most of the protocol DAOs here are in the decentralized finance space, but there's a lot of other things happening within social good and the art scene as well. And we've also got crypto gaming popping up too. I'm pretty excited about it. I honestly think that DAO should go anywhere, go to every vertical, because it honestly seems like a better world. And for the first time, it makes me optimistic for the future of technology, something that isn't purely profit driven. Cool. All right, is it all hype? The metaverse, DeFi, and Web3. The words seem like they popped out of nowhere, and they kind of did. 2020 and 2021 really were crazy years for crypto, truly a year of the ape. We had Steph Curry and Jimmy Fallon sporting some $100,000 monkeys, maybe even a lot more now. I'm not sure what their floor price is, maybe 80 Ethereum or something. I think Jay-Z has a CryptoPunk. Reese Witherspoon there has a World of Women NFT, which is a social good NFT where a big portion of the revenues go towards diversity and inclusion. So a lot of social good NFTs out there too. And Snoop Dogg there has an NFT of himself from the game Sandbox, which, side note, you can find their utility token, Sand, in the Metaverse Index. A little sponsored ad for there, right there. Now, money JPEGs, right? They're selling for millions of dollars. It might sound ridiculous, and to a lot of people it is. That's why I'm not going to talk about Metaverse and NFTs too much. But I'll say that I think societal change caused by NFTs is very real. The unfortunate downside of them, though, is that people end up dismissing crypto, or they think it's all hype. You know, you can right-click save the NFTs. Why are you paying millions of dollars for it? But I want to get rid of that fear. I can't explain societal change or social reputation to you in these 15 minutes, but NFTs are an interesting topic you should definitely ask about in the panel. But I'd like to go over why crypto looks like chaotic hype real quick. there's a reason for these bubble-like pricings, bubble-like prices happening. When you dive into it, though, there is real fundamental value being created. There's real revenue being generated, and there is real innovation. This kind of flowchart here is the crypto price innovation cycle. So what usually happens with crypto is the price goes up, people get interested in it, they come up with new ideas, startups and projects are born, and then 2 or 3 years later, the price goes up again because of those projects. And so earlier I said that Metaverse, DeFi, and Web3 came out of nowhere. Yes, but at the same time, they didn't. A lot of the DeFi projects that are hyped up and worth billions of dollars now, they were founded in 2018, 2017. It just took 2 to 3 years for them to mature. Same with the NFTs. ERC 720 has been around since what, 2017 or early 2018. That was when CryptoKitties first launched, the first ever big popular NFT. So, you know, this hype has been there. It just takes a while for society to pick it up. So if we go back in time to cycle 1, the first wave was the Bitcoin era. This gave us the blockchain. And you can even see on this graph that after the price levels up here, our developer activity is sustained, our startup activity is sustained, it's still growing, and now it has a higher baseline activity on social media. This kind of ends up leading to a consistent flywheel of innovation for crypto. These startups will create those new projects and you'll see that cycle emerge. So this is cycle 2. So the first cycle is 2009 to 2012. Now, this is the second cycle, 2012 to 2016. This was the first that Bitcoin really hit the news. It brought 10x more developers and startups into the space. And a lot of projects were created and funded during this time, including Ethereum, which is a pretty famous project, or the most famous one, maybe. This is also the first time I sold my first Bitcoin at $800. So you may put some ha-has for me in the chat. All right, cycle 3, 2016 to 2019. Again, another 10x across the board here, developers, startups, and everything else. This was the cycle of the DeFi startups, the early ones starting up. And we also had the first ever big DAOs outside of, you know, some of the layer 1 protocol DAOs. So we always had DAOs in like the Ethereum DAO and that type of thing, but this was startup DAOs popping up for the first time, which was a pretty big change. And like I said, this is like 2016, 2017, 2018, right? DAOs are now becoming popular in the news. So the stuff happening in crypto won't become a hype till a few years later. And then after cycle 3, we've got the 4th cycle. This is the current one. I don't think it's over yet. It's the cycle of DeFi and NFTs. Notably, I think about this cycle, it's the first time we had a non-technical audience adopt crypto wallets and Web3. And that's mostly thanks to NFTs. Silicon Valley also woke up to Web3. A lot of the FANG or big tech engineers, Facebook, Amazon, Google, they started to quit their jobs and jump to Web3 companies. That definitely gets people's attention. But we've had the same thing so far, 10x developers, 10x startups. Bitcoin price hasn't quite 10x yet, but you know, it's close to a 4x. Maybe we got a bit of a way to go if I'm optimistic. Maybe not, we'll see. And of course, the NFT market was valued at $40 billion. For perspective, the global art market is valued at, the global physical art market is valued at something like $50 billion. So we're almost matching the analog already. DeFi also went crazy. So it went from 1 billion in total locked value to over $100 billion. And I'll talk a bit more about that in the next section. Cool. So I'll leave that chart there. Ooh, there we go. As far as picking an exciting and growing industry goes, there isn't much out there that's moving faster than this. And CAGR is compounding annual growth rate for those that don't know. Cool. BTC was 10x from March 2020. I guess it did. All right. Yeah, that's good to know. Ethereum was definitely like 40x. So yeah, I guess if you count Ethereum, then we went up a lot. All right. So finally, DeFi, the world's new financial system. I wonder how many people in this call believe that they own their money. There's a pretty famous quote there by Henry Ford. I'm missing a bracket there. It's well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. That's pretty interesting. I knew nothing about kind of the traditional finance system before entering crypto, but after realizing how obtuse and corrupt it is, it kind of makes me confused. A lot of people are afraid of crypto. Now I'm kind of afraid of the traditional finance system. Just something interesting. I think that all it takes is really one look to look at how legacy systems have failed the people. They're designed in an obtuse way and they've consistently shown corruption. From mortgage security frauds going unpunished, leading to the 2008 global financial crisis, or something more recent like Robinhood blocking trading for GameStop when it threatened their investors. Like, I'm pretty pissed. I owned GameStop, so like that's a personal problem, but you know, the global financial crisis was probably a bigger deal. Anyway, DeFi solves both of these problems. DeFi is not a scam. It's not anarchists hating the government. DeFi is just what the financial system would look like if your money actually belonged to you. It's the purest form of a financial system. So I like to think of it as the parallel financial system being built without any banks. It's open, transparent, and trustless, and it's available to anyone, anywhere. So it operates on a few simple principles. Ownership, the fact that your money is actually your money. Transparent, you know exactly how and where your money is flowing. And it's permissionless, means it's open and extendable by anyone, anywhere. I think you'll notice that a lot of these principles, again, they just come back to Web 1. This is how the internet was built. And now we're seeing a repeat of that happen here, but we get the power of Web 2 and we get to redesign the financial system thanks to crypto economics. And thanks to smart contracts. Cool. So everything you have in TradFi still exists in DeFi, as well as actually some new financial primitives that are possible, but we're not going to touch on them today. That's kind of an advanced topic. I was trying to look for images to illustrate the use case of the different use cases and the whole DeFi ecosystem in one slide. This is what I got. This is pretty complex, so we're just going to move past this, but you get the idea. There's a lot of projects in DeFi. Instead, I'm going to break it down into a simpler overview. So we'll take a look at the 6 DeFi concepts that I think you should be aware of. And these kind of have analogs in the traditional finance world. So custody, which is banks actually holding assets and money for you. Kind of the current solutions in DeFi for that are MetaMask, Rainbow, Ledger. We've got lending, and I'll dive a bit deeper into this one. So this is lending your digital assets for a return or borrowing against collateral. Right now, DeFi's definitely got a few problems with collateral. Borrowing works with over collateralization in most cases, but there's a lot of pretty good startups working on under collateralized lending right now, even in Sydney. So that's pretty cool. So previously, or I guess most people still, earn interest on their money at banks. A lot of people I know don't use banks anymore. So this is a really funny screenshot from the ASB website an hour ago. That's a New Zealand bank owned by Commonwealth, which is 0.25% across the board. We get it. I don't know why they had to specify it so many times. It's not too good. Now, DeFi protocols, on the other hand, can get you way better returns on your money. Inflation right now is supposedly 6%, or that's what they claim. Most economists are betting it's probably double that. So yeah, you're losing a lot of money every year if you have money in your bank. Being in crypto and DeFi, most of my friends don't use banks anymore. And I don't know anyone that's earning less than 8% on their money every year. Now, it's obviously a more complex topic than that. There are some risks associated with it, and there's ways to mitigate that risk as well, which I'll get into soon. But these kind of screenshots I've got on the slide here, that's from, I think the one on the left is from a kind of a hybrid DeFi platform called Nexo.io. And same with the one on the right, which is Crypto.com's earn product. And I've got another one there. I've got Aave, Compound, which are Ethereum DeFi products. And I've got Anchor, which is my favorite DeFi product. It's on a different chain, Terra, but I hope that's not blasphemous to talk about it here. Yeah. So a lot of these kind of returns might seem too good to be true. But honestly, when you think about it, it kind of just makes sense. Banks are making crazy returns on your money as well, well over 10%. They're just doing it through exclusive investment opportunities that you don't have access to, and by lending out at way higher rates. I mean, you can just look at the interest rate they lend out at and the savings they give you, right? So I think the actual problem there, though, is that the traditional finance system is just really inefficient. It was designed a long time ago. It's pretty obtuse. It doesn't work well internationally. They just end up having a lot of overhead, and they're driven heavily by profit. Now, DeFi, on the other hand, uses the same mechanic as a bank, but instead of keeping the profit, they're passing the majority of the returns back to you. They're able to do that because of the incentive mechanisms that exist in crypto economics and through the efficiencies we gain from smart contracts and blockchains. Yeah, it might be unbelievable to hear that a lot of people don't use banks, but I know quite a few people. It's very realistic, very possible. There are crypto debit cards now. You can ask a bit more about it in the panel or DM me afterwards. I'll walk you through how it works. But for now, I'll move on to the other DeFi concepts. So I'll go over these last ones quickly. We've got trading. So these are decentralized exchanges that let you exchange tokens or assets with other people on the blockchain. Platforms like this are open to anyone to use anywhere, and you get to keep ownership of your money. I was honestly a pretty big crypto skeptic until this point, but the tipping point was when I first interacted with Uniswap and SushiSwap, and Matcha actually. Interacting with a website, being able to make swaps while not moving my money anywhere, like having it be mine and be in my wallet, was kind of a weird feeling. It felt very pure. It felt unfiltered. I'm used to having to wait like 4 days for my money to deposit somewhere and then be able to do something, which was a very new feeling for me. And I think there's just something about retaining custody over your money and having it do actions. And there's a lot more to it, but like, I won't, just show crypto to you for the next 20 minutes. I want to highlight Matcha there because I think earlier I mentioned that Web3 was about open and extendable protocols. So Matcha is not actually a trading exchange. Instead, it builds on top of Uniswap and SushiSwap and aggregates all these different exchanges to get you the best price across them. So it doesn't actually maintain liquidity itself, which I think is a great example of Web3 being open and being able to create economic value for everyone involved. Cool. So insurance, I remember there was an earthquake that rocked Christchurch a few years back in New Zealand. And the insurance companies claimed, were rejecting claims because people were claiming, the insurance companies claimed that the earthquake was an act of God. That's pretty ridiculous. Decentralized insurance is a lot better. There's no BS. Right now, it doesn't actually provide cover for earthquakes just yet, but they provide cover for a lot of the risks that exist in crypto right now, like smart contract hacks and risk and something called stablecoin volatility, which is when if you have a US dollar, it can get unpegged. It's extremely rare and it only happens with less mature stablecoins, but that's kind of an advanced DeFi topic that we can talk about offline. We've got asset management tools. So there we've got IndexCoop, Your Own Finance, Zapper. Zapper is a pretty cool asset management tool because you can connect your wallet to Zapper and it will show you all your assets and even highlight your portfolio over time to you, right? Which I think is pretty cool. I think everyone's always wanted to use their bank and view their spending and categorize it automatically. But it's been a pain to do that, especially in Australia and New Zealand. You can't really use different apps and different protocols to do that because all the banking systems are generally closed off. I think now that's changing, but in crypto, it's just possible natively. I can go on Zapper, it connects to my wallet, it shows me everything. I can go on Zerion, it does the same. My assets transfer across all these protocols, and that kind of concept of transferability goes on to like video games with video game assets transferring as well. So I think there's a lot of interesting things you can look at there. The next one is derivatives. So that's DYDX Circle Mirror. I only included this section, so it'll just be complete. You don't really need to know much about it, but that's basically options trading, mirrored securities, leveraged funds, stable coins, kind of the more advanced DeFi primitives and concepts that you probably don't need to know about. And don't worry if you don't care about them. The main ones are custody, lending, trading. If you get those down, you'll know most of DeFi and everything that's important, really. And of course, IndexCoop, you need to check us out. Cool. So that's DeFi. It's efficient, it's robust, and it's transparent. A lot of people in this call might be skeptics. They might see how we survive. They might not see how we'd survive a shift of the world's financial system. And I mean, to that, I think you just have to look back at history. Humans don't like change, but change is inevitable. It happens. We once believed that the source of all information and truth would come from encyclopedias and universities. But clearly we survived the largest information shift in the history of our species, the internet. I think the financial system is now long overdue for a similar shift. And fortunately, it's one where the incentives actually align with the people for the first time. Everything that is going to happen is going to be good for the world. And why stop that, right? Why not join and help it happen? In my opinion, there's honestly nothing more exciting in the world right now than being part of this digital renaissance. That's really the only way you can describe the feeling of being in crypto and having that shared sense of identity and community. And I do believe that's like the biggest societal and technological shift since the internet itself. And I'm honored to have had this opportunity to talk to everyone here about it. And that's the end of my portion of this talk. So I'll hand it over to Renee now, unless there's any quick questions if we have time. How are we doing?
Yeah, let's go to Renee.
Sweet. All right, Renee, I'll hand it over to you to talk about DAOs.
To rant about DAOs, talk about one of my favorite things. Hi everyone, kia ora, I'm Renee. I am tangata whenua o te ika Maui, kaitiaki of multi-generational whenua, tribal lands and resources here in the North Island of New Zealand. I'm also a solo mum, a beautiful 4-year-old boy, and a contributor to a number of DAO. I don't know how many people there are here, but massive thank you for sharing your time and just coming in, hearing and sharing your thoughts in the chat as well. I'm really looking forward to some questions. So Khans, like I learned things just then because I'm not so much in, I'm an IndexCoop. Obviously, we are a crypto asset management company, one of the world's biggest, and it is a fantastic, got this fantastic product suite, but I'm definitely there for the people. So the DAOs I work in, I don't know, we didn't get a slide with the Cooper Trooper DAO landscape, so those points are a little bit redundant, but I do some work at Aragon. Aragon is a DAO tech stack, and they, over there, I help distribute funding to the community, to early stage community initiatives. Gitcoin, oh, voila, there it is. So Aragon is up there in the DAO operating systems. It's the little blue eagle. Gitcoin, I'm a big fan of Gitcoin. They are probably, I think, a global leader in public goods funding. They're missing from the grants category there, but I'm really excited to be involved with a project that's come out of Bitcoin called Decampus. It's a gamified onboarding project, which I think is just going to be fun because I like games. And I think onboarding to Web3 is like mission critical. And of course, IndexCoop, my main day job nowadays. Like, it's the little L there under protocol DAO, although I would say there's probably a category nowadays that we would fit into better, which is a product DAO. I'm a contributor there in the Growth Nest, and also APAC. Probably the reason that I love DAO and why I'm here to rant and try and talk you into going and finding some to lurk and enjoy is it's the closest thing I found to like my favorite in real life tech community. When I was in Dunedin, during my time there, I was a member of a tech startup community. It was called The Distiller. This was back between 2009 and 2012. It was basically just a grassroots community based out of the Centre for Innovation there on the corner of Castle Street for aspiring tech entrepreneurs, right? We all just came together to build an open knowledge sharing and collaborative community. We were running agile sprints for our different projects. One of my friends, my heart always breaks for him a little, was doing something called Room for Rent. And this was even before Airbnb was a thing. But of course, they had the funding to blitzscale. But since that time, I've worked with at least a dozen Web2 startups and probably close to 100 clients on growth, performance, and business and marketing. But in May of this year, I rather excitedly bailed on Web2 and made the switch to Web3. And I haven't looked back. I came in search of tooling specifically to help communities govern better. So in relation to my communities that I live amongst, our whānau, our iwi, our hapu, our tribes, one day hopefully our nations, being able to self-govern and provide people the agency that is, I just think, so empowering to know that you have a voice and we can affect change by coming together for things that we believe in. Basically, I think DAO was the answer to the solution that I came looking for, hence me being in Aragon and hence me also being an IndexCoop. I think I found IndexCoop via crypto Twitter, or it may have been Deep DAO, but I did a lot of lurking in the beginning because I was like, okay, this DAO thing sounds really great, but like, what is it? So decentralized autonomous organization, right? Decentralized, we're an online global community that can't be censored. I just think that that's brilliant. There's no CEOs. There's really contractual obligations, although they'll probably become a little bit more commonplace. But mainly they're operated right on cultural and social mechanisms that the community create for ourselves. Autonomous from a tech perspective, you've got your smart contracts executing functions, but from a human perspective, DAO also tend to function with quite a lot of autonomy, a ton of hand holding. If you want to come and operate in a DAO, don't be looking for people to be telling you what to do and giving you tasks. It requires initiative and autonomy, the ability to ask good questions, the ability to be humble and apologize. I've had to do some apologizing. My computer speak does not convey the empathy that I hope in person that I have. And for organization, and this is, look, at its most basic, a DAO is an online community with a shared crypto wallet, right? So it could be just a small group of people, but at the scale that IndexCoop is getting to, it's a hugely complex organizational structure requiring like world-class, next-level coordination of financial and human capital. I personally have no doubt that DAO are the future of work. I think there was some recent research from McKinsey that shows two reasons why people are leaving traditional companies. One, lack of sense of belonging, and two, the lack of feeling like their work isn't valued. So in short, retaining talent requires people companies to provide a sense of community and purpose, which is exactly what I believe DAOs can do. So DAOs share a common vision, tend to have strong values, provide ownership to their contributors. Like, that's amazing, right? So I work within Index to grow the value of our products, to grow the value of our governance token in which I'm paid. So like when we all come together, it's an investment in one another and in ourselves. This is what ownership is like, why it's so exciting to me. I have this other philosophy where as kaitiake, ownership is typically almost diametrically opposed to what I believe in. But that's when it comes to shared resources, things that I believe belong to everyone. Ownership of your own funds and your own wallet so that your bank isn't stopping you transferring money to a crypto exchange. I mean, got to get past that. I know Sukans was saying about not having banks, and I don't hardly operate without a bank nowadays. But if so far in this conversation, DeFi and possibly DAO sounds like the kind of future that you'd like to get involved with, I just wanted to kind of outline a few things. First thing to be aware of if you're joining DAOs is that it takes time. I mean, maybe some people do. No, I don't know that anyone can. Even the most talented, most amazing genius person can't just roll into a DAO and be like, I'm here, I'm going to be doing my thing. Because time is really important to build trust and to build context. Context was a word that I heard a lot. So if you're thinking of joining DAO, typically people would go to a website in Web2, right? I've built many of them, and websites are there to provide information. But in Web3, it's a little bit different. If you go to our IndexCoop website, you'll find mainly product information. You can learn about the benefits of our products and the underlying tokens for data. Data, my favorite token. I quite like GMI too, but DPI, MVI, all our flexible leverage trading products. The app version of the site, you know, you can connect the wallet, you can buy tokens, and in some cases stake them too to earn yield or the crypto equivalent of interest. And our DAO's governance token, the index, is basically your membership and a vote ballot and your reward currency all rolled into one. But from the website, you're not going to learn about how really to become a contributor. From there, you might find documentation. IndexCoop, gonna just keep shilling us, has, I think, some of the best documented onboarding processes that I have seen to date. I mean, this is probably, we've undergone massive change in the last 6 months, and we've got some amazing people in the community driving onboarding, and it's a much clearer process at the Coop than it would be in many other places. So documentation is a great place to learn about values and missions, products, governance, kind of everything, probably in a Git book or maybe other forms of documentation. But my main reason when I came to IndexCoop for sticking around was a governance forum. So just a discourse, but just these amazing, intelligent, clever people tackling tough conversations in the open with the ability to challenge one another while remaining respectful and adapting to change and community feedback. It's a really wonderful thing to see, like governance and to be involved. I mean, I am a bit of a governance geek, but the governance forum is what made me go, wow, this place is definitely going to be a place that I'm going to look at checking out, and it's kept me there. So those three things: the website, just to find your way to the governance forum and to our documentation, and probably to a Discord. If you're not already using it and confused, or if you're one of those amazing people that's using it and loving it, welcome to the DAO world. I think we nearly all operate using Discord. It's a wonderful tool, but like I find it overwhelming. Maybe other people do as well. You come in, join Discord, you're going to need to agree to a code of conduct, just general like respect, do unto others type of behavior. One of the things that I remember finding most difficult about trying to join a DAO when I was going around and working in all these different places was needing to introduce myself, like just into the void, speaking into the void, not knowing who was listening, if anyone was listening, or if anyone would read it, and not knowing who would answer, what they would say, or what questions. It can be kind of hard. I think I've become a little bit more au fait with it, but I don't have to introduce myself in as many places anymore. So don't be afraid to introduce yourself. In a place like the Coop, we have wonderful community managers that are there to like encourage and say hi and point you in the right direction. Discord, with those things, with the governance forum, with the Discord and your documentation, you're almost officially a community member once you're in the Discord, right? But then there's a transition from going from being a community member to a paid contributor. And so I wanted to speak a little bit about that because it can be challenging. I think everyone comes in as like, okay, I'd love to get started. Oh, what can I do? And it's like, oh, have a look around, do your own research. It's pretty standard in Web3, right? Do your own research, ask people. But if you want to contribute to a DAO, I'm going to highly recommend joining community calls. Nearly every DAO will have them, and it's a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to understand the networks that are going on within the DAO and the relationships and the people and perhaps the areas of expertise. You'll hear about opportunities and you can find and secure opportunities that way. I know that's how I found my first opportunity to contribute at IndexCoop. Took me 2 months. 2 months of lurking and being like, where is the thing? And I volunteered for lots of stuff, but in the end, that patience and that lurking found me a really excellent opportunity to, for a proposal for the establishment of the APAC working group. But then it took 2 more months to get paid. So it is also something of a luxury in terms of maybe time and being able to afford to spend as much time online as I did during lockdown, like in the search for what to do in a DAO. Okay, so community calls, great way to become a contributor, connect with people and learn what needs doing. And of course, there's always the opportunity to create proposals for funding. That's how I got my start with the funding proposal for APAC. But like I said, it took me 2 months to find that opportunity, another 2 months to get paid for it. So if you don't quite have the luxury of time, then a really great bet are bounties. So bounties are basically tasks with a defined deliverable and a defined reward value. They serve purposes to get shit done. So a bounty is going to be something that's identified as having impact and value to the DAO, as well as, because I've created a few myself now, I think they're a really great way for first-time contributors to take that plunge. Because I think once you contribute once, then you get it. You're like, okay, now my foot's in the door and I can just keep going and finding other stuff. I know how I found my way to here. I can keep going and finding other ways. At IndexCoop, we offer bounties for things like copywriting, SEO, research. I've got some data wrangling ones coming up. We've probably got some analytics and performance ones coming up. And I know the Talent Scout, the community role for talent scouting was initially a bounty. I'm not sure how we're going to time. I think I better call it time there. Thank you guys so much just for listening to me rant about something that I really love. Ciao.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Renee.
Sukans.
All right, I think Sukans, we had the Kahoot next up in the agenda, right?
That's right. Yeah, but we've moved that over, I assume.
Yeah, we've had, honestly, we didn't expect this turnout for this event. So this is a bit funny, but like our Kahoot plan doesn't actually cover this many people, but slight change of plan because, you know, we're startups and we're like agile and all that sort of good stuff. So in the post-event feedback form that you'll get immediately after this event or after 5-10 minutes, there are 4 to 5 questions in there based on the slides that we just saw. And if you get all of those questions correct, you'll be eligible for the airdrop that we're doing, which is essentially free money. So like, guys, gonna get amongst it. But yeah, unfortunately, no Kahoots elevator music for today. But yes, sorry, everybody, maybe next time. But, oh, guys, don't make this harder in the chat. It's killing me. So perhaps we'll move on to the panel, which Abi who's in the Earlywork community, but also part-time DJ himself. I'll throw it over to you.
Thanks, Maz. Really good information from both Sukans and Renee on working with IndexCoop, I think, and DeFi and DAOs in general. So thanks both for that. I think it'd be really cool to hear intros from Richard, Michael, and Mitzi, I think, because I think we've already heard intros from Sukans and Renee, and then we can start asking some questions.
So do you want me to get it first then? All right then. So hi everyone, I'm Richard. I'm a part-time engineer at IndexCoop. It's pretty recent that I got on there actually. Other than that, during my day job, I just work at Canva as a software engineer.
Cool, thanks. Mitzi?
I'm not sure if Michael's here, so I'll go next. My name is Mitzi, and I'm one of the community managers at Index, and also the community and culture pod lead currently, and we're just starting that pod, so it's brand new.
Awesome, cool. Do we know if Michael is here? I'm guessing he isn't. I don't know.
I am.
Oh,
Hello.
cool, awesome.
Awesome. Hi everyone. I was a bit late to jump on, but yeah, excited to be here. Yeah, Michael Mtenga. I do the I head up BD at IndexCoop, business development, and I normally mostly focus on these like business relations between like DAOs to DAO or protocol to protocol, like some of the protocols that were mentioned there. So it's been quite interesting trying to kind of grow and scale IndexCoop and the products in the space. It operates quite differently, so it's it's quite interesting, as I said. But yeah, excited to be here.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys. Just before we get started with all the questions, Maz will drop in a Slido link. So feel free to drop in any questions and we'll ask that over the next 30 minutes or so. But I thought we'd just get started quickly in terms of how it feels like working for a DAO versus a traditional corporation. So I think all of you have probably worked for a semi-largish corporation. So versus that, like comparing that versus working for IndexCoop. Maybe Richard, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So for a bit of context, actually, how I got into the DAO in the first place. I fell down the rabbit hole a while ago, and then I was like, oh, let's just contribute to some DAO of some sorts. And then I found out about IndexCoop's product, so DPI. I was like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Let's see what they do. And then I went deeper and deeper into there, joined a few cores, and then started. Well, the first when I was contributing, I was like, oh, I'll just contribute for fun. But that task led to another task, and then just led to being part of the organization now. In terms of difference, you can imagine it as like a startup that doesn't have a really like a central managing entity. There's a few people in there in the IndexCoop who have like really high context across all the different groups, and they sort of guide a lot of the other pods, but most of the pods just work on their own and build out they propose things, and then that gets voted on, and that gets built out really quickly. So even more chaos than a startup is probably what I'd say.
Yeah, that's really interesting that it is more chaos, and yet Index have managed to sort of create the playbook for onboarding into DAOs. What do you think led that initiative from Index to be more organized than other DAOs? Like, what do you reckon was the secret sauce there?
I think one part of it was actually the birth of IndexCoop. It came from, I guess it was a bit like an offshoot of this other, I guess, venture capital funded startup called Set Labs, and they sort of birthed IndexCoop. So they had a bit of like backing and some, I guess, VC funding behind them. But then I think also they recruited quite a bit of people. So I think Mitzi led the onboarding back then. It was actually, I don't know, back in the day, that was like kind of this like, the benchmark for onboarding for DAOs. It must have been really chaotic at other DAOs at the time, but they tried to give people like a pathway to sort of gain trust and context and move into being a contributor. So I think that was probably what made it more successful, like trying to get people in.
That's pretty cool. Mitzi, it'd be really awesome to hear your perspective on that.
So just to make sure I'm answering the right question is, how did we differentiate ourselves and kind of become almost like a DAO leader in the space? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of different aspects. Specifically there, we have a lot of really, really great leaders within IndexCoop, and that ranges from our talent and recruitment and our onboarding to our business development team, our APAC team, and all of this kind of really worked in conjunction with each other. Should we probably mute, maybe?
Okay, yeah, got it. Sorry about that.
That's all right. So from my experience, I can speak on a little bit about onboarding. Is we had a couple guys, Pepperoni Joe, pseudonym obviously, and B. Radley, and they kind of led the onboarding team to be super successful because they broke down what you need to kind of succeed on a very minimal level within the DAO. So they broke it down to about maybe 6 steps, which is, posting on the forum, posting on Discord, joining calls. And these are things that we think are going to help you build the highest level of contacts in the shortest period of time. Of course, onboarding for everybody is a personal journey, depending on how much time you really have to contribute and to dedicate to spending in the DAO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I guess on the flip side of that, when people are sort of going after those bounties or actually becoming like a part-time member of the DAO, how does that sort of promotion work, or how does that sort of progression really work?
That's a good question. So there's a few different pathways that you can take to start contributing, right? So the first one is what Renee said, which is we're in the process of really populating this, but by creating bounties and tasks for people to contribute, it's really easy for them to pick up things without having to spend the 2 months to really figure out where they can contribute value. It's just, what are your skills? What are the tasks? Do they match up? And can you finish it? And the second one would be is what Richard, I guess, did, which is it's almost like a hybrid of both. So he did tasks, and then as you kind of complete tasks, you build the trust and the relationship with other people, and then they'll start giving him more tasks. And before you know it, you're just constantly doing the same thing. And then, sorry, I should say there was 3. And the last one is probably kind of the way that I went into it, is I saw somewhere where I could contribute, which was how the Discord was set up. I brought it up to Discord. I brought it up to the community lead, and I just said, what do you think about this? Can I implement it? And they said, yeah, sure. But they were super upfront with me about this. They said, we can't reward you right now because our budget isn't set out for this. And I said, that's okay. Like, I just want to help. So I did it anyway. And then the next time, they had another task, I applied for it again, and they knew who I was at that point. So I would like to attribute the fact that I got the role of community manager because I did come up with the initiative and the drive to change things, whether or not I got rewarded.
Yeah, That's really interesting. And on the rewards piece, maybe Michael, you can answer this one. How does that work with IndexCoop? Is it a very transparent process? Is it sort of centralized within a few people? How do you know what people get rewarded and what the remuneration structure looks like?
Yeah, so when it comes to rewarding, it's a bit weird. They are like high context contributors, and these are people who kind of understand like what is really impactful, and they have within the DAO have basically done so much that they've been able to be seen in the community as people to lead certain initiatives. So usually the reward process happens through that system. We have what we call, you can call them like mini DAOs, but these are like working groups where like these working groups are focused on a specific area, like growth or marketing, business development, products or analytics. Usually people who like the people in these groups, they do like go through like a governance process to set up the groups, and people who lead that essentially within the proposal to basically get that group reported, they'll be like, yeah, I will be the lead here, and then they determine the rewards, essentially like the leads of these working groups. However, I would say that in order to get to that stage where you are creating your own working group within the organization, you do need like you need to build reputation, you need to build consensus, because of like the voting process, and the community has to really get behind you so that the group can get created and so and supported. So there is like an element of the community has a say in that, but I think for like simplicity purposes, the way that it's worked until this moment is there are these working group leads that determine rewards based on like the level of impact, and they can set out bounties beforehand, or they can just allocate a task. If you come through we have like a lot of meetings with working groups, you'll start to see that these are sort of the gaps. You reach out to the working group leads and they'll say, go do this. So if you want to actively contribute like Mitzi, where you identify an opportunity or a gap, you can also contribute like that, and then you can get rewarded when you kind of submit the sort of work that you do. And that process also happens like at the end of the month, like you submit what you have done, and there's like a whole process for that as well. And then from there, that gets sent to the working group leads, and then based on like the budget that they have and the level of impact that the work the level of impact of the work, then they reward based on that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it seems very meritocratic based rather than showing up for 40 hours a week or so. I think maybe an interesting question for Renee would be, what do you think is the number one way that someone can get involved in a DAO with no experience?
Not going to be the answer that you want, because it totally depends on the person and their skills and their interests. I think everyone can get involved in the same way by getting involved in the community calls, checking out that governance forum, taking part in the Discord, taking and showing initiative, asking questions, volunteering. Yeah. Did you say easy way? What's the easiest way? Because I don't think there is an easy way. There's no easy ins in a DAO. Yeah. It requires passion and shared values and hard work, but it's fun because you're not always being set to task. You don't have to be here at this time or that time. You have the flexibility to also maintain a really great lifestyle, work from anywhere in the world. It's not easy. Nothing worth doing, I think, in life should be super easy.
Yeah. So I guess like underlying that is really just like getting in the Discord, introducing yourself, getting involved wherever you can, and sort of putting your hand up, taking that initiative, I suppose, would be the best way to get involved.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, that's a pretty different way of working, I guess. It'd be interesting to sort of compare it from the engineering side, Richard. I know you've done a few projects for IndexCoop, and if you could sort of compare that to your day-to-day work at Canva, like, are there any annoyances, I guess, in working in a decentralized sort of state?
Yeah, for me, okay. So I live in the APAC region, and most of the core engineering team for Index lives in the US. So a lot of the meetings are US based, which meant sometimes I had like 1 o'clock meetings to like actually meet these people, 1 a.m. meetings to meet these people, or like 5 a.m. meetings to like get up and like go to their, I think one guy was giving a presentation on the like technical architecture of set. So I had to wake up at 5 o'clock to attend that to learn about things. So that's part of the difficulty with living in APAC. The other part is engineering work does come and go. Like sometimes we're trying to launch a lot of products and a lot of work just comes in, but at the same time, you need a bit of context to be able to actually be able to do the thing. So for new people, it's actually, sometimes it can be quite hard because there's not enough easy enough work to try and get onboard new hires in. So I guess that's the difference between a more established startup, which has like a constant stream of work that they can put away, be like, oh, all the newbies that are coming in, this is what we can feed them to train them up.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so is there ever a risk or ever a situation where there's been a duplication of work done by two people working on the same bounty or working on the same sort of thing?
So that can happen. We used to have this wizardry program, and it was like organized through Notion board, and we had this guy called Block Dev who was organizing all the wizards. We called them wizards, and he tried to make sure that there wasn't two people working on the same task. I'm not sure if it actually did happen, but that's what we did to make sure, to the best of our abilities, we don't have two people working on the same thing, and then one person who submits it first gets the reward.
That's pretty funny. So it's almost like a race towards finishing whatever the bounty is, right?
Yeah. If you check on like the other, I think Gitcoin, they all have bounties, but it's very much like who finishes it first gets the reward, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And from like an engineering perspective, again, I think a lot of engineers might be really new to the blockchain space. So, and I think you were pretty similar. So how did you sort of upskill yourself or get the confidence to get started with IndexCoop?
Cool. Right. All right. So when I first started, Index actually has 2 recommendations for new engineers trying to upskill in this space. The first one is do this. There's this website called Crypto Zombies. You get to learn some basic Solidity coding and some of the basic concepts around how to program for the blockchain. There's also another thing that Index releases for itself. It's called IndexCoop Adapter Crest, and it's one of our core, probably our lead smart contract engineer. He made this sort of adapter quest to allow sort of new people to sort of look into like how do they make their first 2 PRs and what kind of code, just some easy tasks for people to sort of learn off. Other than that, it's really just I think it's like all other tasks. You start off something really hard, sort of bang your head against the wall until something works, and then get someone else to review your stuff, and then they teach you. So I got pretty lucky, I guess, in that regard. Someone was willing to help me out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess one of the questions in the chat was trying to visualize or trying to actually understand what a task means. So like, could you give an example of stuff that you've worked on at Index?
All right. So one of my most recent tasks was a writing some code, writing a smart contract to migrate one of the, so our product is a set token, and the set token is like a portfolio of component tokens. So you can think of it as like a stock portfolio with that consists of multiple stock. So imagine on an exchange, one of the companies decided they're going to split their stock. They're going to migrate from stock version 1 to stock version 2. So we, as the owner and manager of these set tokens, we have to, one of our component tokens actually migrated from version 1 of their token to version 2 of the token. So we actually had to do the same thing. I had to write a contract that was going to call a function on that the token exposed, and that would migrate one of the components from one version to the next, and then we had to deploy that on the chain and execute the contract, pay some gas, and do that migration.
Cool.
So that was one of my recent things to do.
Yeah, and for that, how is your performance sort of measured? I guess with traditional companies, we might have like a check-in with our manager after a big task, or there are like very standard performance standard measurements. And so in this case, how is it measured?
I'm not quite sure. Does the contract work? Did we not get rugged? I think that's a good way to measure whether it was performant or not. But no, we have this. Our engineering group is led by this guy called Edward. He does all the sort of, I guess, performance. Yeah, these are just engineering tasks. At least what I've been working on. Yeah.
And maybe Sukans, you can give a bit more clarity as to how, running this whole event was a bounty that you guys all contributed to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually onboarded at the same time as Richard in the call. I remember we were in the same onboarding call, and Mitzi was our kind of organizer for that onboarding call. So it's all back now. We're all talking at the same time. Pretty cool. So that was in August, I think, last year. It was quite a while back, but then at the time I was pretty busy, and I think this is the great thing about Index. Like, if you want to lurk initially, just like see what it's all about, you can, right? And I wasn't able to contribute then, but a few months later, I had a bit more time, and I went onto their Notion and saw this thing around a university outreach program, right? And there I had a lot of experience doing this. I helped start a university club at university. And I was like, okay, this is something I can do, right? This is cool. And I get to learn how DAOs work. I get to learn more about Index, the most well-structured and organized DAO. So it was just an obvious thing for me to do. And yeah, I picked it up. It ended up evolving into a lot more, like a giant event, or this event now, and like a whole initiative for outreach and marketing in Oceania. But yeah, that was kind of it. It was pretty straightforward. And that's why I kind of like to compare it to like a uni club. It was very chill, casual. It didn't feel formal. I didn't feel scared about messaging anyone, asking noob questions. It was just a really nice community.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that makes a real difference when you're sort of joining a community of pseudonymous people. If they're sort of nice and welcoming, it makes it a lot easier to get involved. I think, Mitzi, it'd be really interesting to understand how you sort of balance working for a few different DAOs. It almost sounds like you've got part-time jobs with each one of them. How does that arrangement work?
You'll have to check back with me on that in maybe like a month or two, because for the past kind of several months, I've been doing a full-time job. So I was logistics head of a trading company. So that was my day job. And then I was contributing to Index, and I was starting to contribute to Gitcoin, and I was starting to contribute to UMA. So I didn't sleep very much. I just sacrificed a lot of sleep. It was kind of difficult. And eventually I did have to make the decision, like if I'm willing to stay up late and then willing to wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. to make these calls that are based in North America and US, I should really consider doing this full time. So last week was actually my last week of Web2 job. So this week is my first week of like working full time DAO. So far, it's been so far it's almost the same, except I just get to nap, to be honest. I get to sleep after all these like morning calls, but at the moment, I've been very lucky that I have set my expectations and boundaries pretty early on with both DAOs that I'm contributing to. I did say this is, I can only do part-time because I'm also contributing to Gitcoin, and I is what I'm really passionate about. So I told them I can only contribute 20 hours here and 20 hours there, and that's how much time you're getting from me. Because what I've come to realize is that I can't do it. Like, you guys are still young, maybe you can do it for a little bit longer, but I'm getting old. So I need my sleep, I need my nap, and I need my downtime.
Yeah, fair enough. I think no one would begrudge you against taking an afternoon siesta. Michael, it'd be really interesting to hear your experience at Index from the business development side. What sort of bounties or what sort of tasks do you sort of do on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
Yeah, so with business development, the way I would define our contribution to the DAO is like we're trying to enable like all the working groups, contributors, and just the DAO as a whole to achieve their goals by like leveraging our network that we've developed in BD. So majority of the things that I do on a daily basis, there's like external facing, which is just, connecting with teams, hearing about like what a project's doing, seeing, whether we could work together and collaborate so that we can kind of drive value to both organizations, especially from like a protocol point of view. Like there's certain metrics that really matter, like how much liquidity or how much capital is locked up in a certain protocol or trade volume. It's also something very important for protocols that deal with like decentralized trading. So when you're interacting with these teams, and you need to kind of like appeal to that and show that you can drive those sort of value drivers within their protocol. But also like for IndexCoop itself, certain partnerships will drive value to our product, drive capital, drive interest as well. So yeah, that's a kind of that's one part of sort of the day-to-day things of business development. The other is we are trying to build like a very robust sort of working group or community of contributors to drive awareness and get our products out there in the ecosystem. So that's more internal things. Like we really focused on like empowering contributors to go and execute on initiatives that they're excited about within business development, but also, as I said in the beginning of the call, any other like if it's a people, like we have like a community, like a people's nest or communities nest, which is like about community growth, and they look at DAO Tooling. So yeah, software applications that help out, make the community run more efficiently. So if they need a certain platform or they need an introduction, that's where we would also step in. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like a broad overview. And then in terms of like maybe more of the specifics, like trying to get incentives on your products, because like a lot of these DeFi protocols, in order to like attract capital, they are rewarding their tokens. So there is like, you have to speak to their teams. Sometimes it's even like a governance process, like actually going into a forum, making a proposal to the community, and that goes to like a tokenized vote. So it's quite different in terms of like how like business gets done and executed in a more traditional sense. Like these are decentralized teams, they're all over the world, Telegram, and some of them are anonymous teams as well. So it's quite interesting that there is a bit of a different approach. But I guess it's also quite cool because we're kind of writing the playbook. Like when I got into the industry, there wasn't like a set way of doing things. Like this is the space is so different, and it's built on such a new technology that things operate in a different way, and you have to kind of just be like immersed in the ecosystem to kind of get things done and get like these partnerships and relationships set up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like, everything is just so nascent that things are still being set up. Best ways of work are still being, determined. I think Index have done a good job on the onboarding side, but maybe on the other things that there are more learnings to be had. I mean, that's all we have time for today. I'll hand it over to Maz to wrap up.
Cool. Thank you so much, Avi, for moderating and for our awesome panel. And of course, thank you for everyone who stuck around to the very end. Yeah, Web3 is definitely like one of those topics. We're very early in the space. So, I think there's a long way for us to go. But I think one of the most popular questions that came up in the slider was actually, how do we get our airdrop? So we mentioned this earlier, there will be an event, post-event email that'll, if you registered with the Luma event, you'll get one of those emails. There'll be a form in there, like the big red button that says get my airdrop. We did drop the Kahoot questions in there. They're not too hard. So if you get all those questions correctly, we'll be able to, and get your ETH address, obviously, we'll be able to organize that airdrop for you. So very exciting stuff. And of course, if you want to check out more of what Earlywork is doing, please check us out at earlywork.co. We're also on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the good stuff. Sukant, anything to plug from Index side?
I think I won't shill our products. Like, I'll be honest, we make most of our money from institutions. So I just want to say, like, DAOs are exciting. Crypto is happening, and you should come be a part of it. And if you don't think you should, then DM me and find out why I'm so obsessed with it and why it sounds like a cult. Because I'll dive deeper. Trust me, I have no end to my conversations on crypto. But yeah, just get involved. I'm excited to see everyone there in the Index Discord.
Awesome. Yeah, I think everyone has like their own personal learning journey to go through. But of course, I feel like I should have said this earlier, not financial advice. Please do your own research. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for coming along. It's been awesome seeing everyone here. What a way to start the year. And yeah, let's wrap up there. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.